Hi, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. My name is Ron from International Trade Council. So, thank you for attending today's webinar. Our topic for today is recreating healthy habits. So, the objective of this webinar is to get simple practices and straightforward advice on changes you can make in your physical life related to nutrition, movement, breathing, and ways to combat the negative effects of stress, and also to explore how navigating in the various states of consciousness can deeply affect your daily life and future. Our speaker for today is Miss Sunita Pasi from 3 Dosha. So without any further ado, I'm going to give the stage to her. But before that, sorry, if you have any question, please feel free to type in your question in the Q&A on the comment section of the screen, and she will be able to answer the question right after the presentation. So, Ms. Pasha, you can go ahead now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And hello, everybody. Delighted to be here and share this information with you, wherever you are in the world. So I'm here in the UK. It's early evening now. And, the last couple of years, a lot of us we're checking in with ourselves, at this point and asking, I know many people I work with, certainly people I come into contact with are asking how are we doing and where are we heading? So these are all really great questions, especially at the moment because of the way that there's such a change taking place in the world. And some of those questions are about health and well-being. And because there's not just one set of answers, what I wanted to do with this presentation was really focus it on recovery in personal and business lives. So, depending on whether you're looking for solutions on a personal level or that you're feeling that you could do with some business tools, then that's really what I really want to, cover in this session. And the focus, the solutions come from a traditional healing system called Ayurveda. This is the system that I teach in. And if we go back to sort of the end of the 19th century, people in the West would be living at the rhythm of the seasons. This was how people were living, and families and communities they would grow plants and herbs, and that would all help us stay in good health. But now we're living in quite different times. Some of the advances that have been made since those times are absolutely brilliant, and Western medicine is certainly brilliant in the sense of the procedures and some of the tools that we can take for immediate relief. And we certainly know people who've recovered from injuries who maybe a few decades ago it would have been fatal. So that in mind, what I want to suggest to you that modern times are very much focused on cure, whereas the older ways, the focus is much more on prevention. And Ayurveda really is the oldest, most cohesive of those traditions, and its core is actually very, very simple. So within this presentation, I'll show you that there's actually practical routes to more conscious living when we consider actually what we eat, what we fuel our body with. Also simple breathing techniques. So there's different dynamic types of technique that you can practice. There's movement, which is transformative. So this is really coming more from helping the energy flow more so within the body. And all of this is easily learned. So none of it's difficult. And just a few steps in that direction will really take you towards less stress and also enable you to have greater responsibility for your health. Stress is where serious illness starts. So if that's something that you feel has been creeping up, certainly within the last few years, then paying more attention to your breathing, to some of your routine and ways that you can support that. Also paying more attention to what you eat and knowing how to find calm. And we can do this with simple, as I've said, simple breathing techniques simple yoga techniques that don't require you to be super fit, and it all makes a difference. And on top of that, Ayurveda also offers many simple natural remedies that can help with everyday conditions. So it may be, if you are considering some of the information that I'm sharing in this presentation, that you are starting to see, you may find that you even may have some inflammation in the body, or that you're feeling more heavier than you would normally. Shifts and changes in the body can show up in many different ways, but there's a lot that you can do yourself. So that really is the core message, that you don't have to outsource everything, your health all the time. There's so many ways to actually have an easy routine that supports you keep balance. So Ayurveda, it's kind of like a health upgrade. It's once you have the tools, the techniques, and you've really kind of started a process of integrating, these tools into your life, then you may find that also you become more curious about some of the next level of information as well, where we start to go much more deeper into some of the medicinal herbs, and start to think a lot more about how certain tools can also support our health with certain ailments and cure certain ailments. So without further ado, I'm going to start walking us through this presentation now. So I've titled it Ayurveda for Beginners. It's an introduction to Ayurveda, and also it's an introduction to the concept of how our energy impacts our everyday health as well. So, how do I change the page down? I'm just trying to change the okay. So Ayurveda, it's a traditional Indian health system, and it's from a Sanskrit word, and Sanskrit translates literally as the science of life. So Aya meaning life, Veda meaning knowledge. It's a completely, though it has developed from India, it transcends all land, all cultures, and it's completely individualized. So at no point in this system do we talk about specifics. Everybody is unique to themselves, and that's because of your constitution and actually the way that the elements sit within your body. Now, the growth, I can talk about the growth in the UK, which is very interesting. In the 60s, those of you that remember the 60s or know of the 60s will be familiar that the world was going through a spiritual awakening. And there was actually a meditation teacher known as Maharishi who popularized a type of meditation called transcendental meditation. And actually, as he did that, he also popularized Ayurveda. So probably for a good 15 years, there was quite a lot of emphasis on this way of life, on this way of living. But then things changed again, and it kind of went out of familiarity. So really, Ayurveda, we see that we see yoga centers all over the world now. Pretty much every city you go to, you're going to find absolutely fantastic yoga teachers who can support you with your health. Ayurveda is, yoga falls within, it's one of the tools within Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is really the full cohesive healing system. And your constitution, which is completely individual to you, is derived from the 5 elements that are all around you. So when we consider the 5 elements and how they exist in the universe, so you have space, space really giving us all that spatial awareness, and it's where we can say that we actually connect with a lot of creativity. Air, so we breathe in the air. If we think about air within the body, we think about the diaphragm, and actually how air also creates movement. We then have the fire element. So fire is really related in Ayurveda to transformation. We look at it as a cooking energy. but also it gives light, it gives energy, it gives transformation, it fuels our body. So it's very distinct. Then we have water, water being a much more kind of calming energy within the body. We see it all around us, whether it's a pond, a lake, a sea, a river, and also we see water in all her moods. Within the body, we're going to recognize water in the sense of the liquids that actually circulate around our body. And then we also have earth. So earth is the solid structures, so earth is the soil, is all our beautiful trees, it's our crystals, it's our rocks, it's our deserts. All of earth is represented around the world in a number of different ways. And actually within the body, it sits within the body in the sense of all of our muscles, our tissues, our ligaments, anything that we can physically feel and touch. So as I said, we're all individual. We're completely individual. And your Ayurvedic constitution is connected to nature. And it's comprised of these 5 elements. So that means that actually the way that your self-care program should also be distinct and unique according to your personal constitution. So it's not one size fits all, which is quite a different concept to Western medicine, where if you have an ailment or you go and see your medical physician, they'll look at the ailment, but with Ayurveda, we're really going more to root cause. So from this aspect of healing the body on a much more deeper level, we can really live in harmony with our own constitution. And actually knowing your personal dosha, it really helps you create that bespoke self-care program. It will give you guidelines on nutrition, some of the food groups that are supportive of your constitution, even skincare formulations, oils to use on your body, optimum wellness tools, and all of this is body, mind, medicine. So, when we consider that actually this is a holistic health system, we also have to consider that, we're not just mind and body, we have a spiritual essence. We have what we call in Ayurveda Atma. We have our soul, we have our consciousness. And so when we're considering health and optimum health from the Ayurvedic perspective, we're connecting with all aspects of who we are as a human being. So if you know your Ayurvedic constitution, then you're going to be able to follow the next few slides relatively easily. Now, if you're not familiar, then what I suggest you do is go onto the Tridosha website, because we have an online quiz that you can take, and it gives you a top level diagnosis, so you can actually see what your constitution is. And knowing your personal dosha, as I've said, will help you really think about some of the tools that are so suitable for you and really going to help you create that balance and create those rituals and create that everyday program that's really easy for you to follow. So the first constitution is Vata. So when our constitutions actually are formed at birth, so we have a natural body type, a natural constitution, and in optimum health, we really want to be as closely aligned in our health to our natural constitution. If we're completely far away from it, that's where imbalance can start to creep in. So that's just something to think about after this presentation. So if you are of a Vata constitution, or predominantly Vata, that means that your constitution is dominated by the 2 elements of ether and air. And this is all about movement. It's all about creativity. So when you consider the mind and actually the way that you may creatively work, Vatas tend to be very inspiring and very energetic, and also quite spontaneous, because again, there's lots of movement in the body. So this is all great when Vatas are in balance and they're looking after themselves and they've got a regular routine, which helps keep them, energized and keeps that movement moving in the right direction. But actually, when Vatas get out of balance, they can feel nervous. And also this is when anxiety can start to creep in, and they might even have trouble sleeping. So these are the things to be aware of. When you start to see some of those things creeping into your health, you can start to ask your question. Ask the question: is there something I can do to help myself stay healthy? Is there more than I can be doing to support my health? And body, usually our Vatas are quite slim. They tend to have more lower body weight. And also they tend to be more sensitive to cold. So how that shows up in the body is that they might not age too well, so they need to be careful about dryness, about fine lines, and also it might show up in the body such as things like bloating or even constipation. So these are again telltale signs that your body is a little bit out of balance. Really, for our Vatas, what we're looking to do is balance the body with warmth, with nurturing. When we think about self-care, we think about very nurturing ingredients, things that are always also relaxing, and also sticking to a daily routine. Now, I've seen that with many clients myself. Those that of a Vata constitution who don't follow a daily routine, they're the ones that tend to get out of sorts more readily. So just be aware of that if you recognize yourself or you recognize any of those qualities in your constitution. Now, the next dosha is actually what we call pitta. So pitta means what cooks. It's predominated by the fire and the water elements, which means that clients tend to have a warmer body temperature and a strong digestive fire. So this is really great in the sense that in balance we have very dynamic, sharp individuals. They tend to be leaders in the work that they do, whether that's personal or business. They can be perfectionists, and they're very brave individuals. They're the ones that are really gung-ho and ready to take onto the world. But if that fire gets out of balance, we can start to see some of the other imbalances in the elements creep up. So if you consider the fire and the water element, if they get out of balance, what we see in nature. So just consider actually then what that looks like within the body. And we might start to see things like a feeling of frustration. We might start to see feelings of even anger can creep up. So again, think of that fire element and think about what are the things that pacify those kinds of experiences. Physically, our pettas tend to have very good muscle tone. They're more of a medium frame. And because there's so much fire circulating in the body, they tend to be sensitive to heat. They certainly don't, they're certainly the ones who probably the last ones to wear a coat in the winter and don't need too many layers, unlike the other constitutions who really need to layer up and stay warm. And also with their skin, there tends to be a little bit more inflammation in skin in the body. So we can see more congestion sometimes in the T-zone as well. Now, when a pitta gets out of balance, when this constitution gets out of balance, it might lead to things like heartburn. It can lead to poor digestion. And this can then lead to this lack of energy or a weakness in immunity. So there's many ways to balance these types of conditions. So certainly with pitta, we want to be thinking about coolness and calm. So that's whether it's in the environment that we're absorbing ourselves in, whether that's in the ingredients of maybe self-care products or even the food that we're eating. And also, pitters just really need to sort of check in with themselves and remember to be kind. Self-love, self-care is super important for our pitters, because they're on the go all the time. They're on the go all the time. They're having a lot of fun, but we all can also burn out from if we over indulge and overwork. So certainly managing that and being loving and brave also to yourself, not just putting all of that energy into all the projects that you're working on, or outsourcing all that energy, also bringing it back to yourself. And then we have our lovely Kafirs. And Kapha is literally, Kapha means what sticks. So it's the power of cohesion. It's this kind of a sticking energy that's actually dominated by water and earth. And this governs all the structure in the body. And mentally, our Kafirs are very loyal, caring, calm individuals. They are our nurturers. So we'll often find on a professional level, our Kapha constitution, we tend to find them in nurturing roles. So certainly in medical professionals, certainly teachers, certainly carers. So gravitate towards that sort of work. And when they're in balance, they're kind of like the person that everyone goes to, because there's such a stability there. There's such a tolerance there, and they're incredibly forgiving. So they're naturally full of gratitude, naturally in a very aligned, high state of being. Now, so it takes quite a lot really to knock a Kapha. It really does take quite a lot, because they really are happy in their space and also at the pace, that they are living. But if they do get out of balance, this is when we start to see things like lethargy and even over-attachment. So there tends to be a procrastination, and Kafirs may find that they oversleep. That's one of the telltale signs that things aren't quite as they should be. When we physically look at the Kapha, they tend to have more of a medium to a larger frame. And they're also the people who have a slower metabolism. So, you have, if it's not yourself, you'll certainly know people who will say, I've got such a slow metabolism, in the winter, I really have to, maybe move more, because otherwise, they tend to put the pounds on. So that's something to be aware of, that movement is really, really, really recommended. They're also more sensitive to dampness. And so we can see more kind of problems with actually a weakness in immunity. Also, the skin might appear a little bit more clammy, and things like ailments may show up in the way of chests or colds, chesty coughs, sinus congestion, allergies. These are the kind of things that tend to creep up in a Kapha if they do get out of balance. So Kafirs are really balanced, again, by warmth, but also increased activity. That's really important. And when it comes to actually application, anything that we apply to the body should be much more cleansing, purifying, even energizing. So if we think about ingredients that have those sorts of qualities, that's what's going to benefit our Kapha person the most. And they can be, if they do get lethargic or low in themselves, there can be this intention to cling to people. So definitely be active. Certainly try and get up earlier in the morning. Go for a run or a long walk. If you have a dog, wake up early and then take your dog for a walk. Whatever it is that actually gets the body moving, but certainly don't lie in bed, and be active and really learn how to let go. So what we don't want to be doing is harboring onto things that no longer serve us, as it were. So with Ayurveda, everything is connected to this circadian cycle and the natural rhythms of nature. And when we start to consider what that means on a health perspective, life for many of us has sped up so fast in the last couple of decades that less and less of us are actually living with the natural rhythms. However, our body was born to live within the natural rhythms. That's where it's happiest. That's where it's joyful. That's where it feels peaceful. So one of the things to consider is whether you live in a quiet town or whether you live in an urban environment, is to consider what are some of the things that keep you connected to nature. Excuse me. And what are the things that really help increase your energy, actually increase your energy and help you really help you feel that vibrancy? Because though when we consider there are a number of practical tools that we can embark on, there's plenty of science to show us that the way that we actually live our lives, how we're experiencing our environment, also affects what we call our vibrational frequency. And this is all related to energy, because everything is energy. Whether that's the elements around you, whether that's the elements that sit within you. From the Ayurvedic perspective, every vibration that you feel, it's equivalent to a feeling in the world. It's because it is a vibration, and there are only two species of vibration, either positive or negative. So either positive or negative. And that's something that you need to consider when it comes to health and well-being. And any feelings that make you broadcast, feel or broadcast a vibration that's that can be positive or negative, then that's where you need to consider, where is your energy going? So the first aspect of this is your thoughts. So just considering actually that all of your thoughts emit a frequency, and this frequency, it will go back to the origin, which is within you. So if you're having negative thoughts, or if you're feeling discouraged or sadness, fear, even anger, the more you perpetuate those thoughts, the more they keep coming back to you. And so that's why it's important to take care of the quality of your thoughts and learn how to cultivate more positive thoughts. And we can do this with mindfulness techniques. We can do this with meditation techniques. We can do this by connecting to nature. So the tools within the Ayurvedic system, they're all there. All of these tools connect very nicely to each other. And actually, this is your wonderful toolbox, that you can dip into whenever you need to really support yourself in your health, depending on where you're at. So another thing that can influence your energy is also the company that you keep. So if you're surrounding yourself, if it's a negative environment that you find yourself surrounded in, then this also is a vibration that will affect you and impact you. So if you're in an environment where you're surrounded by people who are complaining all the time, or they're gossiping, then just be aware of that. Be conscious. Bring awareness into that. And because you have a choice. You have a choice to sit and listen and partake, or to really consider, actually, that's not the vibe for me. So just bearing that in mind. And then another area is also music. So music, so much science on this now. Music has a frequency, and it's very powerful in the subtle energy that we actually take in on a much more deeper level. So if you're considering that actually our bodies, our minds are continually going through a healing process, then if we're wanting to move our bodies, our minds forward, again, just paying attention to the lyrics of the music that you listen to, paying attention to, is it interfering with the way that you're feeling? Just paying attention to that and remembering that, again, that is also it can also have an impact on how you're feeling. And it can be very subtle. It can be tunes that you play in the morning or that you put on in the car before you go to work, when you're driving to work. It can be music that you play regularly in your home. Just consider the energy and the vibration from that. And there is actually music that's created at a frequency called, it's created a frequency of the 432 hertz. And that music is very healing. So this music actually enters the body and lifts the energy. So it really naturally gives much more joyful, peaceful feelings. So that's really what you want to be considering if you feel that that's an area of concern. Also, the things you look at, we're looking at this beautiful slide of these beautiful mountains, and we can see nature in her element. So whatever we look at also has this impact on us. And, our brain accepts what we see regularly as a reality and releases a whole lot of chemistry, which again affects our, how we're feeling, our energy as well. So look at things that feel good and help you accelerate your, your sort of vibrational, the vibes. And you might even consider things. So, however your office is, if you've got a messy office, just consider tidying it up, but also minimalizing, keeping it relatively simple. Think about that same strategy within your home as well. Think about the art, the pictures on the walls. Think about things that fill you up, fill your heart up, and actually give you delightful to look at. You have a sense of real joy, when you see them, those beautiful moments that when you look at a statue or a favorite painting. So just consider that also in your environment, and actually, what it is you're creating. What does that space actually look like? And this leads me on to the next point, that actually your atmosphere as well, whether it's home or work, if you do spend a lot of time in a messy environment, that will also have an impact. So improve what surrounds you, and just organize, yourself. So take care of what you have already. It's not a case of changing everything. What it is a case of is recognizing that actually there's a more peaceful way to experience your atmosphere, to experience your environment, and that it's within your hands. So it's all manageable. It's not something that you've got to feel that you've got to bring a professional in to sort out for you. It's completely within your hands, and you'll see that actually, how quickly that can really make a difference to the way that you are experiencing your environment. Also within this area of energy is actually the words that either we speak ourselves or we share about others as well. And if we rate this, at the moment there's so much to be speaking about with everything that's going on. So we need to really consider what it is we're saying. Is it necessary? And also, if you find yourself complaining, or you creep into maybe gossiping or bad talking about someone else, is just to really firstly owning that, but then also considering that it doesn't help to perpetuate the drama. It's not certainly not supporting you in your health to continue on that cycle. So just assuming our responsibility, and you assuming your responsibility for actually the choices in your life, and how you emit those words. There is spiritual saying that actually says, if it's not necessary, don't speak it. I think sometimes we do need to say things, because also we have to make sure that we have clear vocal cords and we're confident and we can speak our mind, but in a balanced way. So just considering that again, that also can have an impact on our health. And then finally is gratitude. That gratitude positively really affects your vibrational frequency, and it's a habit that should be integrated into your life, and it's something that we want to be thanking for. Start by thanking for things every day. So if it's just a simple practice, all of the things that you've experienced, all of the people that you've met, all of the opportunities that have come your way, and over time, I genuinely will say that gratitude really opens the doors for other good things to happen positively in your life. And so when we think about these tools that I'm sharing today, we've got very practical elements which are based on our Ayurvedic dosha, and then we've got energy-based thoughts to consider. That actually, our whole energy actually also emits a frequency, and that also impacts our health and our well-being, and also how we are experiencing our life. And to move forward, we want to consider actually both aspects. So we want to consider how we can actually integrate a self-care practice that's easy for us to manage, considering again what our Ayurvedic type is. But then we also want to consider what are the things that we can do ourselves to support our energy field, to support the way that we operate on a day-to-day basis, because that's kind of the inner sanctum. That's the world that's we're not physically seeing. We're not going to see it physically, but it will show up in actually the way that we feel, in our moods, in the way that we talk to others, in the way that we talk to our families, in the way that we talk to our friends. It will show up in the way that we deal with our customers, our clients. It will show up in those moments when we're by ourselves, and actually we're sitting there still with ourselves, and we can't run away from those thoughts, those feelings in the mind. So we have to consider actually that there may be a disruption in our lives, but by actually working from the inside out, we can work towards creating more resilience within the body, within the mind, which actually gives us much more peaceful and much more joyful experiences. And it helps us keep control, actually. And again, I just sort of relate, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and it's very easy to actually drop into a place of fear, or of just doubt, or just uncertainty. And that's why it's even ever more important to really focus on our self-care and our self-care program, and how we can manage and maneuver ourselves as we move forward, into March, into April, into 2023. So I started off this session by saying, a lot of us are checking in with ourselves. And I would like to open it up to questions and answers, if anybody has any questions. The world is very different to how it was a few years ago. So it's completely normal that there would be some, changes happening within you. And I have clients, I have students who tell me that they've been experiencing brain fog, fatigue, exhaustion, things that they're not familiar with. There is a complex relationship between our immunity, our immune system, and also all the lifestyle factors that I've been talking about. So, such as exercise, such as stress reduction, healthy nutrition, even self-massage, all of these things, and positive inner attitudes, all of these things are really important to consider when it actually comes to our well-being and supporting ourselves and our health as best we can. And also, there's simple preventative measures as well. So again, as I suggested, earlier on in the presentation, these are preventative measures that actually will support you in the long run. And so if you recognize yourself with any kind of symptom at the moment, firstly consider that inner sanctum. How are you experiencing your emotions at the moment? How are you feeling? And, consider what things in your immediate environment you can actually start to work on and change. And, we talked about cultivating more positive thoughts. And also considering your environment. We also talked about the music that you listen to, and also gratitude, gratitude being a number one tool that can really enhance the quality of our experiences pretty immediately, and then we want to, consider having a regular, doing this regularly every day, really integrating it into our lives. And so do we have any questions? I don't see any coming up.
There is one question here.
Is there? What do I press on, Ron?
Comments.
On comments. Comments, video, mute.
No. On your right hand.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, I can see. Thank you very much. Yeah. And my question is, when we know our body is composite of 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kafir, why is this not adopted easily by all mode of treatment? How the same can be used? That's such a great question. Thank you, Subrata Biswas. Excellent question. Yes, it sounds so simple. And Eastern and Western medicine is, energetically, they're coming from a slightly different space of creation. So the ancients have had all of this knowledge for thousands of years, and guide you really to natural immunity and all the natural tools that I've been talking about. I think Western medicine is starting to talk about individualization somewhat, but because Western medicine is based on science and case studies, and considering that they look at things in the way that they will have a number of case studies, and then they'll see a pattern, and so that's how they really relate their results. Whereas Eastern medicine is based on much more on an intuitive feeling and an intuitive knowing. And also in Eastern medicine, we bring everything back to a mind, mind, body, and spirit. So we consider the spiritual life as well. And I guess, to answer your question, that's something that we're starting to talk about more on a mainstream level. But because it's not easy to put into a simple sentence, it's not something that's presented in an everyday doctor's surgery. So I do actually talk about this. I've written a book called The Doctor Won't See You Now, and I do actually talk about this in that book. But once you do understand that you have an individual constitution, you're able to really start to develop all preventative measures and actually consider what kind of measures are really suitable for you and those that aren't so suitable for you. It's completely unique to you, your unique blueprint. Colette is asking, we can use preventative measures to help build resilience, but what would you suggest people should go to when the changes are coming thick and fast for quick access to become balanced? I'm thinking of people coming out of trauma particularly. Yes, so Colette, absolutely. If people are coming out of trauma, immediately I would suggest body work, alongside a self-care program. Because trauma is a very intense. It's a very intense experience of the body, and we want to take to release some of that baggage that's being held so deeply in the body because of what that person has experienced. By the movement of that energy flow in Ayurveda, we talk about it in the sense of life force. We have a word called prana, which is life force, and pranayama is the extension of that life force. So when somebody's experienced deep trauma, actually it's kind of like, in a way, having a bad spot. We want to release some of those that impact, that debris within the body, start to release it, help it move, so that actually the body can start to be more acclimatized, as it were. And I think that's a quick access way to get some energy moving. And then it's really important to actually then support the individual with a self-care program, because there's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. There's going to be a transition that's taking place. And it's very powerful. That shift is very powerful, and trauma is completely a fabric of that person's experience. So it's, they're completely tuned into that. And so we need to move them back into a space of peace, of safety, and create a solid foundation for them. So that's the way I would do it. Absolutely. Thanks, Colette. Thank you.
All right. So any more questions?
Any more? I don't know. Is somebody else writing? Somebody? One more, I think. Let me just click on here.
Yeah, one more here. Can you see it?
We know, Subrata, we know the Ayurveda is 5,000 years old, scientific way of treating the human body. Why is it not so popular? Another brilliant question. Thank you. And I think it's many of the tools within the Ayurvedic system. I think in the West, Ayurveda has been a bit of a complex system to share on a mainstream level. And just as yoga, yoga took many years to take off. And, now most people have access to yoga. They know the power of it. They know the transformation of it. and they have it as a regular practice, just as they do going to the gym. With Ayurveda, it would be wonderful to see it prescribed, because all the information is there and all the tools are there. I think it's probably not as popular as it should be, for more to do with political reasons. And I I'm certainly one of those people, walking the path to make a change there. More people should be educated about it, and really, when you start to go this path and start to integrate these tools and these techniques into your life, it all just fits and makes sense, and it becomes a way of living. Ayurveda is very much, it's a philosophical way of living. So if we consider that that actually, if we were living as our ancients had, written in the text all those years ago, in balance with nature, with the elements, with ourselves, then the world would look quite different today. So we have to consider the way that we live our lives. We live a very fast life. It's becoming more technological. Now we see our children are on computer games an awful lot. So there is a disconnection from the things that actually we share within the Ayurvedic system. And it's all really, it does come down to vibration and actually how we are emitting those frequencies within us, because we are energy. And when we have an intention and a focus, and we are really becoming, like I said, just more owning our process, and have a sense of authority about our health, we start to understand which of the tools really suit us. You start to really naturally actually understand this mindfulness technique, this meditation technique is just amazing for me. When I eat these food groups, they really suit me. When I eat these food groups, they don't suit me. So it's mastery, it's mastery of the self. It's mastery of the self. And unfortunately, in mainstream health, we don't talk about health in that way. But I do believe things are changing, and certainly more Western doctors are studying holistic health and starting to understand much more about mind-body medicine and actually the connection between all of these three elements. And as we ascend as human beings as well, as we also evolve and ascend, we make the connection with the spiritual life as well, and actually how pain is held at such a deep level unless we're doing the work and moving ourselves forward from the inside out. Colette has asked, how would you use the frequency idea in therapy? Thank you, Sibrata. Frequency idea in therapy, gosh, that's a brilliant question. How would I use it? I think it's really nice to have some simple meditations and actually some guided visualizations that explain the process. So there were 7 steps that I actually talked about when I took you through those frequencies. And so we talked about thoughts, we talked about company, we talked about music, we talked about the things we look at, we talked about atmosphere, we talked about words, and we talked about gratitude. And there are guided visualizations that would support all of those concepts. And in the same way that talking about the elements, it's so much more easier to understand the elements when we actually do a meditation on each of the elements, because then we actually feel the power, the presence. So I would do it. Yeah, I would do it in the same way, Colette.
All right. Thank you so much for those questions. It's very interesting. So I may suggest that you can put your contact details on the comment section. So in case that they would like to reach you via email or your option on how to reach you, so they can contact you directly.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think that's a wrap up. So before we end the webinar, I would like to thank you guys for attending the event. And Sunita, thank you so much for presenting. It's a very interesting topic and presentation. Again, this presentation is recorded. If you would like to get a copy or if you would like to to listen again with the presentation, let us know. We will be glad to send you the link. And if you have any questions or if you would like to reach her directly, she just type in her contact details here. So before we end the webinar, any last words for the attendees, Sunita?
I hope you've enjoyed it. Like, it was an introduction, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. On our website, there is a dosha quiz. Please do take that. Have a look at sort of top level what your dosha is. There's more information on there as well, and just yes, the essence of living in your own truth is a powerful thing. So I wish you well with that journey, and certainly do contact me if you want to go, any deeper into and understanding any more of these concepts.
All right, thank you so much. And again, I would like to thank you guys for attending the event. And that concludes the webinar for today. Thank you and have a great day. Stay safe, guys. Thank you, Sunita.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.